Hey everybody, Lucas Sader here. I hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to talk about remote recording and engineering and the process that I use to remote record and engineer the artists that I produce and work with. So before I go ahead and show you this step by step, let's talk about what remote recording is, if you're not familiar with it, and why it would be beneficial for you to do it in the first place. Let's suppose that you were working with an artist in person in the same studio, and you were going to go record vocals. In that scenario, the process would look something like this. You would get in the room with them, test out their microphone, test out their headphones, make sure their levels are good, make sure they can hear themselves and that they can hear the track and that they're comfortable. And you would get started recording, maybe giving them ideas and feedback in real time as the song goes along, vocal producing with them or for them. Now, when you work remotely with somebody, with an artist, a lot of the times what they do is that they record the vocals on their own, send it back to the producer, and the producer will edit and go from there. That's all great. It's a great method. It works fine. I've done it many times before with awesome results. But the process that I'm going to show you allows you to do two super important things that add up to making an amazing vocal performance. It allows you to keep the communication going throughout the whole song. That way you can give them ideas, you can give them feedback, and vocal produce with or for them. And it allows them to just be able to focus on the music and the performance. They don't have to think about engineering. They don't have to think about pressing record or about, if their files are saved properly, if they forgot to plug their computer in and it runs out of battery. They don't have to worry about any of those things. They can just focus on getting an amazing vocal every time. And as we know, getting an amazing vocal performance is one of the most important parts to any song. So we got to make sure that we take the time to do that and to get an amazing vocal every single time. So before we get started, let's also talk about some gear. Let's talk about the gear that you, the producer or the engineer, are going to need and what the artist is going to need in order to get this done. So I've simplified this process. It's like how I've made it is kind of like the easiest, simplest way with the less gear as possible, so that we don't have to worry about the gear. So if you're the artist, you're going to need your computer, a DAW, microphone, cables, anything that you would need to record vocals. You would need your phone and a good internet connection, Ethernet preferable if possible. If as long as you have a good internet connection, good Wi-Fi, that is all great. As the producer, you're going to need your computer as well. You're going to need an app or a plugin that is able to stream high quality audio in real time from a DAW. I use Listen To by Audio Movers. You can use whatever plugin you like, but as long as you have a plugin that transmits audio in high quality so you can hear everything that's going on in the session. You are going to need your computer. You're going to need your phone as well. You're going to need good internet, and you're going to need an app like Zoom that allows you to access somebody else's screen and control it in real time. So now that we've talked about the gear, let's jump into DAW, and I'm going to show you how to do this step by step. Let's go. All right, everyone, now that we're here on the computer, I'm going to take you step by step on everything that you need to do in order to have a successful remote recording session. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to bounce out some stems for this. Like these right here. The reason we want to do this is we want to create a new session for the artist to sing into. And I do this whether I am doing a remote session or doing one in person. We don't want to have them singing into the same session we're producing the song in, because there's likely too many plugins, too many VSTs, and it's going to cause latency issues. So we create a new session, record there, and then bring it back into our production session. So as you can see, I've bounced out an instrumental, a demo, just so we have to reference. And in this particular case, the artist has already demoed out some vocals, and I'll export those two for two reasons. First, to reference if we need to check to see and listen to a vocal soloed out, and if, for example, they're recording their lead vocal and they want to have the backgrounds in there, they want to have the ad-libs so they can get a closer take to what it's actually going to sound like and hear what it's actually going to sound like in the end. So once in a while, I'll also bounce out like stems for each instrument, like a drum stem, bass stem, guitars. That gives the singer a little bit more flexibility with their headphone mix, although I always ask them beforehand what they like. Most people are cool with singing to an instrumental, but always make sure to ask before you start the session. So after this, what I'll do is I will create a session that they're going to be singing into in my computer first. Personally, I work in Ableton Live, but for this step of the process, I will actually use whatever DAW the singer has, whatever they're comfortable with. For example, some singers that I work with use Pro Tools, some use Logic, some use Cubase. I find that that's just easier. I've created some templates in there that have a vocal chain that I already like and that have everything already set up. And then I send it to them the day before the session via something like WeTransfer or Dropbox and ask them to download that before we begin. Okay, so now on the day of the actual session, we're going to do two things to start it off. First, we're going to call the artist using our phones, and then we're going to send them a Zoom link. As you can see, I've already done this. And the reason we're going to use our phones to talk is so we don't create any weird feedback loops with Zoom. As you can see, I've muted my microphone here, and I've muted the artist's microphone as well. And now keep in mind, this artist's computer right here is just a computer that's sitting next to me for the purposes of this video. But this will be the actual artist. So ask them to mute their microphone. And we're also going to turn off the video. And the reason we're going to do this is because we don't want our computers to work harder than they need to. We don't need to see the artist. If you want to use something like FaceTime so that you can see each other, that's great. But we want to have the computer working as little as possible. So using Zoom just to control their screen. Another thing, if you can connect to Ethernet, that's always better. It's always a little more efficient. So if you and or the artist can use Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi, that always tends to work a little better as well, although you don't need to. So the next move right here is we're going to make the artist the host. And the reason we're going to do this is now they have the ability to share their screen. And this is something, as you can see, it's right here at the bottom of the screen, and they're going to need to do on their own. You can't do it for them. So you will ask the artist to share their screen. So I'm going to do that right now on this computer. And now, as you can see, we are looking at the artist's screen. And I'm going to move this. There we go. We have full access to their screen. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go up here to the top, and we are going to request remote control. And I'm going to accept that on the other computer. Okay, so now we have full control of their screen. Perfect. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to create a streamable link for the session using a plugin called Listen To by Audio Movers. This is a subscription-based plugin that you can use to create a streamable link so that you can hear the session in a very high quality. If you try to do it through Zoom, not only is the quality going to be really bad, but it's going to create a bunch of latency issues. It's not going to be able to record. So we want to use a plugin like this one. What happens is you create a link using this and you copy the link right here, and then you start the transmission using this button here. And you can adjust the settings like the quality, you can adjust the latency. Right now it's half a second, so meaning I'm hearing what's going on in this session half a second after it's actually happening. As soon as you have this link and you copy it over, ask the artist to either email it to you, text it to you, or put it back into the Zoom chat. I've already done this. I've already sent it to myself to save some time. So I'm going to show you what that looks like really quick. So this is the Audio Movers page. When you copy the link and paste it into a browser, this is what you're going to get. I should note that Firefox and Google Chrome work best for this. Safari doesn't really work, so make sure to use one of those. As you can see, we have the title right here, so we know we have the right link. We have the latency settings and all of that, audio settings as well. And this is what we're going to use to listen to. As soon as the session starts playing, you're going to hear audio from on this page. For the purposes of this, I'm going to mute this, or actually I'm going to exit for now. Again, we don't want to create weird feedback loops, and because I'm recording, that could cause some issues. But when you do your session, keep this on, and this is what you're going to use to listen. So let's dive back into the artist session. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to adjust the settings for the session. We're going to make sure that our buffer size is at a good spot, our sample rate is at a good spot. And obviously, for the purposes of this video, we're going to use the built-in microphone and output because I'm using my interface to record the audio that you're hearing right now. But you would choose whichever interface they're using or that they have for the audio input and output devices. The next step is to make sure that the singer has a good headphone mix and that we're getting a healthy signal coming into the interface so we don't clip. One thing that I really like about companies like Universal Audio, and I think Apogee does this as well, and I'm sure there's other companies who do this, is they've created an app for their interface so that you can control the gain settings without having to be physically present or having the singer do it. So I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to go in a console, which is Universal Audio's app. And this is going to allow me, as you can see, to adjust the gain settings right here without having to be present. And this is a really important part of all this is we want to have the artist do as little as possible when it comes to gear. We don't want to overwhelm them and keep asking them, oh, can you change this? Can you change that? Have them do the least work possible. Have them focus on getting a good performance. The more you can do for them, it may be a little bit more work for you, but I promise you the results are they're going to show themselves. We don't want to overwhelm them and having them thinking about equipment and gear and all that stuff. So we can adjust from our end. And then after that, the next thing we just have to do is make sure that the headphone levels are good and we can get to recording. I'm going to press record here so that you can see what it looks like. You're not going to hear anything because I don't want there to be a weird feedback loop of audio, but you're going to be able to see that the audio is going to come in. So check it out. So I just clapped right here, and as you can see, the audio picked that up. And that's the whole process. You keep going from there. Make sure to get all the takes that you need. Make sure to communicate with the artist, take breaks, do all that good stuff. When you're happy with what you have, what I like to do is I just zip up the actual session, make sure that all the contents are saved on there, and send it back to myself using something like WeTransfer or Dropbox. You can export all the files there, but it just takes a little longer. If the artist doesn't have to be there for this, I just like to not waste their time, and I'll just zip it up, send it back to myself, and then I can edit at my own leisure and using my computer. And that's it. That's how you record and engineer remotely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you've learned something. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. If you have an idea of how I can make this workflow even better, let me know in the comments. I'm always open to making my workflow better. And as a gift for sticking around until the end, I want to give you a guide that I just created on how to record professional vocals at home, 100% completely free. It's in the description below. We talk about gear, we talk about the process of recording vocals and how to edit them so that they sound like the ones in your favorite songs. So check that out. And until next time, much love.